All right, today we're diving into a really fascinating project called FLR, or FLR for short. Now, its mission, well, it's pretty ambitious, but it's also simple at its core. To unlock billions of dollars in value that's just kind of sitting there, trapped in some of crypto's most popular assets.
So let me just start with a question for you. What if assets like, Dogecoin or XRP could do a whole lot more than just get sent from one wallet to another? What if they could actually jump into the really exciting and, kind of complex world of decentralized finance? We're talking DeFi, right? Things like lending, borrowing, earning interest, all of that cool stuff without needing a bank. Well, that is the exact problem FLR was built to solve.
And this really shows you what's going on. In the crypto world, there's this huge divide. On one side, you've got blockchains like Ethereum, which can run smart contracts. These things power everything from lending to NFTs, the whole shebang. But then, on the other side, you've got these incredibly popular assets. XRP, Dogecoin, Litecoin, with tons and tons of liquidity that just can't do any of that stuff on their own. They're basically stuck on the sidelines.
So how are we going to break all this down? Simple. First, we'll dig into the liquidity problem itself. Then we'll talk about FLR as the solution. After that, we'll get into how the magic actually works, check out the ecosystem in action, and finally, we'll wrap up with a really balanced look at the risks and the future potential. Sound good? Let's go.
Okay, first up, the liquidity problem. And I'm not exaggerating here. We are talking about billions of dollars in value that is completely cut off from all the amazing innovation that's happening in DeFi right now.
And here's the real kicker, the so what of it all. This isn't just some nerdy technical limitation. See, the solutions that exist right now, they often rely on these centralized bridges. And if you've been in crypto for a while, you know those are famous for being huge security risks. They're basically giant targets. This creates this massive gap between what an asset is worth on paper and what you can actually do with it.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem pretty clearly. Now, let's talk about the proposed solution. Enter FLR. And it's important to see it not just as another bridge, it's positioning itself as a whole new foundational layer, designed specifically to bring these lonely, isolated assets into the DeFi party.
So what exactly is FLR? Well, at its heart, it's a layer 1 blockchain. That means it's its own independent network. Its main job is to be this interoperability layer, to give smart contract superpowers to assets that were born without them. And the most important words to remember here are securely and without centralized intermediaries. That's the whole point.
All right, now this is where things get really interesting. How does FLR actually pull this off? How do they avoid those super risky centralized bridges we just talked about? Well, it all comes down to this really clever concept they call F-assets.
It's actually a pretty elegant 3-step process. The best way to think about it is like getting a digital passport for your crypto. First, you lock up your original Dogecoin on its own chain. Step 2, the FLR network mints an exact one-to-one copy, a representation called FDoge. And just like that, this FDoge is now a fully functional token on the FLR network. You can use it in smart contracts, for lending, for borrowing, literally anything DeFi can throw at it.
So really, there are 3 main pillars holding this whole thing up. First, you have the F-assets themselves, these trustless digital twins. Second, you have real interoperability. And this is key. It's not based on those risky bridges. It's secured by a whole decentralized network of validators. And third, and this is a huge one for developers, it's EVM compatible. That just means anyone who builds on Ethereum can come over to FLR and use the exact same tools they already know and love. That's a game changer.
Look, a great idea on a whiteboard is one thing, but execution is absolutely everything. So let's shift gears from the theory and see what the ecosystem actually looks like in action. Is this just a cool concept, or is there real stuff happening on the ground?
And the answer is yes, things are happening. FLR isn't being built in some isolated bubble. There's a growing ecosystem with DeFi protocols, cross-chain tools. They even have this experimental network called Songbird. You can think of it as a canary in the coal mine. It's a live network where they test out new features with real value at stake before they go to the mainnet. And because of this, we're starting to see real, tangible use cases pop up, like new liquidity markets for XRP and Dogecoin.
Now, I know this just says multiple, but this number represents something incredibly important, especially if you're the kind of person who likes to look under the hood. We're talking about development activity. If you go to a place like GitHub, you'll see multiple active code repositories getting regular updates. This tells you something really important. The team is focused on actually building sustainable tech, not just pumping out marketing hype.
So if you really want to track how FLR is doing, here are the metrics that actually matter. Seriously, forget about the token price for a second. You want to watch the number of F assets that are actually being issued.
You want to look at the DeFi transaction volume on the network, how much security is provided by staking, and how many developers are actively building on it. These are the real signs of healthy, fundamental adoption.
Okay, let's get real for a minute. No project is without its challenges, right? And it is absolutely essential to be realistic. So let's take a sober, balanced look at the road ahead for Flare. The good, the bad, the risks, and of course, the incredible potential.
You know, you can really picture two very different futures for Flare. In one scenario, the high potential one, it becomes the essential, go-to DeFi layer for all these non-smart contract assets, unlocking just a massive amount of liquidity. But the risks are also very, very real. I mean, will people who hold Doge and XRP actually bother to use this? The tech is really complex, and let's not forget, there's a ton of competition from other projects trying to solve the same problem. Success is definitely not guaranteed.
And of course, just a very quick but very important reminder, this is all for informational and educational purposes. It is absolutely not financial advice. Please always, always do your own research.
So that brings us right back to the central question, doesn't it? Will Flare actually succeed in its mission? Will it become that vital bridge that finally connects legacy crypto to the modern world of DeFi? Or will it just end up as a niche player in what's becoming a very crowded field? The answer to that? Well, it's going to come down to the tech, to adoption, and, as always, to execution.